And for those of you who want a smaller, more affordable iPhone, we've developed the SE. Oh wow, thanks Tim. I didn't know you could make a 4K camera without a camera bump. This is great. Yeah, just don't fall too much in love with that idea. And for those of you who want a smaller iPhone that's a bit more affordable, here's the next generation SE. Oh wow, this is cool. It's a little bit bigger and we got a camera bump now, but I'm just grateful we still have an option for those of us who want a home button and the LCD display. Yes, we do care about having all kinds of iPhone options for our users. Okay, Tim, I think I'm ready to upgrade my iPhone again, but I just like a small, cheap one that just kind of functions. It doesn't need anything crazy. Boom! There it is. New SE for you. Oh, gosh, Tim, okay, this screen is much larger. Where's the home button? I thought we were gonna have LCDs for some of us. Ugh, picky. Don't you want big phones? You want a big phone, don't you? This one's bigger! Kind of more convenient to have a smaller iPhone sometimes. It fits in the pocket, it's not too heavy. The future is now, old man. People want big OLED screens with inky blacks, and the home button is yesterday's tech, so just get over it. My grandma doesn't want to have to relearn how iOS works, and the OLED can kind of hurt her eyes sometimes. You can tell your grandma to shut it. Now take what we give you, or I'm gonna slap you across the face with a 13-inch iPad Pro. Okay, but this one's more expensive than before, isn't it? I warn you! Ow! Mr. Ice Universe dropped some more leaks on the SE4 through his Weibo account. Try explaining that sentence to a caveman. But I should preface that, of course, we are not just a couple of months away from the launch of the SE4, so don't hold too much credibility in all the leaks and rumors. A lot of the design and features have probably not been locked in yet, and Mr. Ice Universe does not have a flawless track record. So, of course, take everything with a grain of salt, but the leaks were mostly reported in the form of a spreadsheet, which just makes it feel a little bit more real for some reason. And they're saying that the SE4, like we previously thought, is going to make the switch to OLED. It's going to be a 6.1-inch panel, so expect it to feel somewhat familiar to the iPhone 14 and 15 series. No dynamic island is rumored for the SE4, though. It's still going to have a traditional notch, but this report is still saying Face ID is making the switch along with the USB-C port. And while that part of the report isn't necessarily new, Ice Universe's new stuff is claiming that the A18 chip is going to be making its way into the SE4, which is honestly kind of the hardest part about this report to believe, especially the part that says it's going to have between 6 and 8 gigs of RAM. That's kind of a bizarre point of reference too, because on one hand, I could see Apple wanting to kind of mainstream and popularize Apple Intelligence features, and maybe they feel like we have to offer a cheaper, more affordable iPhone that can still run Apple Intelligence, so let's get the SE out there with a pretty powerful chip. But in the past, everyone was making the argument that no, these large language models, they need 8 gigs of memory, whereas now the report's saying, yeah, it might have 6, it might have 8. I'm like, that's kind of a big differentiating feature. Maybe they found a way to get Apple Intelligence to work on the A18 chip with only 6 gigs of RAM, but I don't see Apple doing the kind of thing where it's like you have to buy the higher storage option SE4 to activate Apple Intelligence. Would they really software lock it to a higher storage configuration? You could let me know down below if you think that's something Apple would actually consider doing. It's a little bizarre, but yeah, still a 60 hertz panel, and of course, like the previous generation SEs, only one camera on the back. But the exciting part is the report's claiming it's going to be a pretty good camera. The 48 megapixel sensor, maybe not the exact same one we find in the Pro iPhones, but still a fairly high megapixel count, which means that the SE might allow you to have that 2x button in the camera app, just no ultra wide camera features. And hopefully, thanks to having some more focus pixels, as Apple likes to call them, you'll actually have some night mode features that are still not presently found in the regular SE, which just feels like a relic. But again, I could see a lot of people getting ticked off by the fact that Apple's getting rid of their smallest iPhone and also the last iPhone with an LCD. Most people are fine with OLED panels, but I see your comments out there. Some people have headaches whenever they look at an OLED panel, and I feel very bad for you guys. Hold on to those SE3s as long as you possibly can. But of course, with the switch to an OLED panel that's obviously much larger, and this will be a much more more modern looking iPhone. A lot of people are naturally bringing up that, hey, this is just going to cannibalize sales away from the cheaper entry-level iPhones, which is a fairly valid criticism of these reports as to whether or not they're actually real, because even with the iPhone 16 series coming out, if all things go according to tradition, the iPhone 15 should get a $100 price reduction, meaning it'll start at $699 instead of $799. The iPhone 13 in a couple of months will probably be discontinued, which still feels weird because that's still a really solid option that I've recommended to a lot of people these days, and Apple's just gonna be like, nah, it's too old now, we're not selling the 13 anymore. Still worth considering if you're on a budget though. And the iPhone 14 will get another price reduction from $699 to $599, but still, that means the iPhone 14 with its notch, just like the SE4, and really the big advantage you're getting with the 14 would be the dual camera. The chip is definitely going to be older than whatever they ship in the SE4, and the iPhone 14 is still going to have a lightning port, which to me is a downside. I don't know, maybe to some of you that's an upside if you're hoping to hold on to lightning as long as you possibly can because you've got a ton of lightning accessories in your car or in your house. Maybe some people really want to hold on to that, but to me the iPhone 14 is going to be more like the oddball out in the lineup because everything else is going to have USB-C and the 14 is just going to be sitting around there like, yeah, remember when lightning ports are a thing? But I think the bigger question a lot of people have brought up is, how is there going to be a $200 price gap between the iPhone 15 and the SE4 when really the only advantage of the iPhone 15 is the dynamic island and the dual camera on the back, which again, do people care that much about having an ultra-wide lens? I don't know, maybe. But it's worth noting that in the past, whenever Apple released a version of the iPhone SE, it was always replacing some other older iPhone in the lineup. Like the first generation SE replaced the 5S a little bit earlier than most people were expecting it to get kicked off the website. And then the iPhone SE2, which I still know a lot of people using, kicked out the iPhone 8, which once again usually would have remained in the lineup until that year's iPhone refresh came out, and then they would have discontinued it. But they killed it off a little early just to kind of simplify and clean up the lineup a little bit, not have too many older models in there to confuse customers. So if the SE4 is on track to come out in the spring of 2025, I think it's fairly likely that it would kick out the iPhone 14. And the downside is, of course, this means the price is probably going to be a bit higher than we'd all like. This is just the world we're living in, the world of inflation, and the world of Apple wanting to secure better profit margins. But because Apple probably just wants consumers to get over Lightning and just accept that USB-C is the future now, very grateful that we're actually able to have these conversations. It feels like not that long ago, USB-C was just a rumor and there were people claiming we'd never get Type-C. Now it's like, how quickly can we all switch to Type-C? But my guess is when the SE4 drops, they will discontinue the iPhone 14 a little prematurely, which I'm fine with because the iPhone 14 was always just a terrible value. It reused the same chip as the 13, and now, of course, it still has the Lightning port, and Apple is already committed to switching everything to Type-C, so I think it'd be the right call, and the lineup we'll be looking at around a year from now, because the SE4 is supposed to come out somewhere between March and May of 2025, is, of course, the iPhone 16 lineup. They'll probably stop selling the 15 Pros, at least new, and then you'll still have the 15 and 15 Plus at a discounted rate, but then below the iPhone 15 series, you're not going to have anything other than the SE4, which will probably start in the ballpark of $550, which I guess considering the product offering, if it does get the A18 chip, it has a 48 megapixel sensor, it has Type-C, it's not a horrible option out there. I mean, yes, it's still 60 hertz. People are going to complain about that. No dynamic island probably won't upset that many people, but I'm just most curious about how, you know, all these Apple Intelligence devices have to light up the edges of the phone and they show off how thin the bezels are. If you brought Apple Intelligence to a phone with a notch, would that colorful light mask out the notch, or would it just go straight behind the notch? These are the tiny, insignificant software questions that I have for Apple that we're probably not going to get an immediate answer to. But where do you guys fall? Would you rather have the iPhone 15 with a dual camera and the dynamic island, or would you rather save yourself somewhere between $150 and $200 and get yourself an SE4, which may have a faster chip, more Apple Intelligence features, but no dynamic island and no ultra-wide lens? If it's just me talking, I mean, the ultra-wide lens is cool, but I'd probably rather save the money. Yeah, I'm going with the SE4. Not for the Apple Intelligence features, just merely because it's a cheap iPhone that comes with Type-C, and that's important to me, and most of the time, I'm using the main sensor on my iPhone anyway. That 48 megapixel camera is really, really solid, and if I could save some money by dropping the ultra-wide, yeah, yeah, I'll take it. That's fine. Feel free to share what you would do down in the comments below, and thank you to everybody supporting this channel directly. Seriously, helps us out a ton, as does just watching these videos, so thanks again. This is your Apple Shape here, and I will see you all in the next one.